All right, guys, good evening. Welcome to class. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we'll stop somewhere around the other day. All right, guys, let's start. So let's go to our controlled environment, the network we're trying to set up. So to do that, we go to our VirtualBox, and then we open our Oracle VirtualBox, double click. All right, so these are Oracle VirtualBox. All of our machines will be listed here. In this case, we've created just one machine, the one we named Windows Server. So let us start the machine. So we'll right click and then we'll say start. All right. That should start our machine. So last time we completed the installation of Windows Server operating system, Windows Server 2022. All right, so having completed the installation, today we want to continue with the configuration. So there is the installation part for every Windows application and then or service, and then there is the configuration part. All right. Okay, while this is loading, rather than just wait, let's explain some concepts. Again, feel free to ask questions at this early stage of the training. So we are not asking you later, where were you? Why did you ask? Why are you asking now? That we have gone far. All right, so let's continue our explanation. We'll come back to practice. All right, so we have this, let's see. So we have this, let's just focus on this. So we have this network. So what we are trying to create here is a network. And in a network, you would have servers, and then you have clients, and so on. So this system that runs the server operating system, in this case, Microsoft Server 2019, we simply call that system our server. These other ones will not run server operating system. They will run client operating system version of server. In other words, we're going to be installing Windows Enterprise version there. So instead of Windows Server, it will be Windows Enterprise and Windows Enterprise and so on and so forth. Ultimately, this one will end up being client 1, client 2, client 3. And then all of them will be connected through some, in this case, imaginary central device. But if it was a physical network, This is a virtual environment. Remember, we explained the concept of virtualization. If it was a physical network, this would be called a switch. And this would be server, all of them connected to the server. What makes this one server is, like we said, it's running a server operating system. And when we have this kind of situation where we have multiple systems connected to one another, so that, what's the whole idea of setting up, we'll have this multiple system connected to one another, we say it's a network. We have a computer network. And this particular kind of computer network is a small version of the big network that will host millions and billions of customers. For that reason, we call this small one corporate network. All right. If it was bigger than this and supporting millions of customers, we'll then call it enterprise network. So there's enterprise network, and then there is corporate network. Enterprise is big network supporting millions of customers. I mean, not rigidly so, just trying to give you an idea of the size of a network when we say a network is big. So millions. Whereas corporate network will usually be below 10,000, less than 10,000 devices or users. They have just a devices connected to the network. All right, you see hear me, Claire? Who's here?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So on this corporate network, we have switch as a network resource. I mean, as a network infrastructure. We have these systems, these devices as network infrastructure. We have our server as one of the infrastructures within our network. So what we have done so far is that we have created this server. So let us continue from there. We have this server created, we have built the server, and we have loaded the server operating system. The next thing we want to do now, as we begin to prepare to set up this network, is we want to install a special service on this server in order to make this server what we call domain controller. That special service that we need to install on the server is available only on the server operating system. And that special service is called Active Directory Services. Let's just call it AD for them. Active Directory. All right. So what we want to go do now is go back to our server and promote it. Promote it from being just server, like we used to call it, or like we still call it now, to what we call domain controller. By domain controller, we mean that we are setting up a domain. Another work for this network. These networks, they are just English name, enterprise, corporate. When we install a server operating system, specifically Windows server operating system on the server that is governing, that is ruling the network, we start to call that network domain. All right? So a domain is simply a corporate or usually a corporate network that is running Windows Server Operating System as the domain controller. Too many technical terms. Are you still copying? Let's find out if you are copying. So there's another popular operating system. In fact, when it comes to networking, that operating system is more popular when it comes to enterprise network. That other operating system is called Linux. Aside Linux, the most common operating system we're using now is Windows. So we can have our server. No, that's not the way. We can have our server, or bear with me. We can have our network server running either Linux or Windows. When our network server is running Windows, we call that network domain. All right. We're not bothered about this. We're not talking about it. All right. Okay. So because our server here is running Windows operating system, once we promote this server from just server to become the domain controller, then we start to call that network domain. All right. So what are we going to do in order to promote this Windows server to become domain controller? We are going to install a special service called Active Directory. All right, let's go and do it. So we'll come back to our environment. Here's our network. Yes. So this is our server that we installed the last time. Let's go into it. Who remembers our password? Let's see. Our password is the akin 2024 hash. All right, let's go. All right. So that locks us into our server. Okay. So now we're in our server. Let us go in. What do you want to do now that we are here? Let's come to the menu, taskbar, and let's look for the next task to accomplish. Okay, still loading, just cancel that. And then we'll go to Windows this, Windows that, and so on and so forth. Let's just give it time, it's still loading. So it's loading what we call Windows Manager. All right. Okay, so if we look around to local server, we're going to find all servers. In this case, there is only one server on this network, and that is why we have only one showing here, not many. And if we go to dashboard, we are going to see all of this. All right. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to promote this server to become our domain controller. So from the server dashboard, we're going to click add roles and so on and so forth. All right, this is it. Let's do it. So we say add roles and features to this server. So we click that. All right, so this is add roles and features. Before you begin, blah, 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 and you read this. All right, but in my own case, I already read that. Role-based or feature-based installation, leave that as is, and then next. It says, select a server from the pool of servers that you want to add role to. In this case, we have only one server, and this is the server showing. All right, next. These are the different roles, the different additional responsibilities that we can add to this server to make it special. All right, so we have Active Directory Certificate Service. We have Active Directory Domain Services. This is the one I referred to when I said this is the special service that we must install on this server to make it the domain controller. This is the crown that we must wear the server guy to make him the king of this network. So if you click that, it's going to say add feature, and that is it. Right? These other ones, they're out of scope for you. We need those other ones to people that are training to become Microsoft certified engineer. But in your own case, we are going to install Active Directory Domain Services. But Active Directory Domain Services is the big man, the general of all of these armies we have here, all of these soldiers. Amongst all of this, the general needs two men to work with it. The two men are DHCP server and DNS server. All right. So even though the real service we need is Active Directory Services, we need the DHCP and the DNS to work with the Active Directory Service. So these are the three services we are installing from this point. All right. That's an interview question. All right. In order to make your server your domain controller, we install the service Active Directory Domain Services. However, that services does not work alone by itself. It requires, we call them dependencies. The service that requires another service to work, we call, so the dependencies are DHCP server and DNS server. All right. Now I'm going to take a break and go back because there are some preparations. If I go ahead now, it's not going to work. It will not work. There are some preparations that we must put in place before we can come back here and do this coronation ceremony. So let's come back. Now, let me show you what we need, what we need to do to put in place. In physical networking, before we can talk about network at all for a computer, so networking simply means connecting multiple computers together so they can share resources. They can share databases, they can share files, they can share internet, they can share all kinds of services. All right, so if we take a computer, let us draw a computer separately here. Let's call this our computer. All right. And then let us call this the switch. Okay. Now, every computer must have a network interface card, NIC, to which we connect the cable, and then there is a central switch to which all cables from different computers connect. So this is a switch, what we drew here earlier on. And then the switch will have ports. This will connect cable to another computer, connection to another computer, connection to another computer. So there is the network interface card. All right. Without a network interface card on your machine, specifically, we are talking about, you may wonder, but in the case of mobile, you don't have that. Yeah, we do have something like that. It's just that in the case of mobile, it's wireless. But let's start with wired. So on this machine, on this virtual machine, or maybe also physical machine, whether the machine is virtual like we have now or physical like my laptop has in front of me, there is that part to which you can connect cable. In case we are talking about wired network, or the part that is already wireless is there connecting wirelessly, in case we are talking about wireless network. Anyway, the point I'm making is, for us to do networking, we must fix a cable, a network interface card, or a network adapter. Yeah, it's the same thing. Whether you call it adapter, you call it NIC, you call it LAN card, it's the same thing. These are different names that you call the same. All right, so let's go and do that for this our system. So we'll go to that computer one more time. What is it? Come here. And then you can see me. So I go to the virtual machine environment. I go to machines. I go to settings. All right. Under these settings, I can add additional system resources. I can check my display. I can add additional storage and so on and so forth. All right. If I felt that what I added earlier was too small. But what is of interest now to me is network. So I come to network and I see that a machine can accept up to 4 different NIC adapters. So I'm going to take this, one more thing. Oh, okay, let me just go ahead and do this. So there are all kinds of ways that you can configure your NIC. In this case, I'm going to say, I'm going to use a NIC, a network interface card, that is facing the internal network rather than the external network. So I'll say internal network. All right. And I'll make sure that my cable is connected to the NIC. So cable connected, fine. All right. And I say, okay. So what have I done? By that, I have now inserted the right kind of adapter, and I've connected a table, at least imaginary, to the adapter and to the central switch. If we do not have that in place, then we cannot even talk about networking. All right. So that part is done.
What do you mean by an internal network?
Oh, okay. You're not done. So let me explain that. Now, do you see this server? This server here is facing that on one side, internal, and it can also face the internet on the other side, external. In other words, this server that we're working on would be able to browse the internet as well as be able to connect to all of our internal systems. Remember that this is our internal network, our private network. So by internal, I mean that the adapter that we just added is able to connect with our internal. It's facing this direction. If I wanted it to connect with external, then I'll take external. But in natural world, we don't call it external. Instead of external, we use the word NAT. So if I install a NAT adapter, then what I'm saying automatically is this system is external facing and is connecting to the internet. But I can have both of them. I can have 2 cards inserted. In fact, one facing internal and the other one facing external. So that's what I mean by. But let me take it step by step, don't rush you through all of them. So internal means I'm setting it up for our internal network. Okay, so come back here. Yeah, we did that. My machine is still running. Then one more thing. After we have inserted the card, the right kind of card for our purpose, there's one more thing to do. Because we are talking about network here, another thing about networking, which we are not going into details about right now, but I'll just mention it, is what we call IP address. Every computer on a network must have an IP address, right? So as long as we are talking networking, we must give this guy an IP address, give this computer an IP address, give this computer an IP address. Each computer must have an IP address because IP addresses are the unique ways that we identify computers and that computers on the network communicate with themselves. Well, this is only your second class. You don't even know what IP addressing is. All right. So at this point, I'm just going to give you some number to use as IP address. In future, you may learn, okay, that was how you got the number you gave us. Okay. But for now, I'm going to assign an IP address of 192.168.100.10 to this computer. And that's what we have in our manual. That every time we're talking about IP addressing and want to assign one, we're going to assign the IP address 192.168.100.10. All right, so I'm just giving you the IP address in theory. But how do you now go and assign this practically? So this is how. And when we assign IP address, what part of the system are we assigning the IP address to? To the NIC card. To the NIC. Yeah, I mean, that is the part of the system that is related to networking. The N in networking, in NIC means network. All right. I hope, looks like I'm rushing, right? Okay, we'll come back to it, right? If you don't get it, please feel free to ask. Okay, but for now, let me go ahead and say, let me look at local server. And here I am going to see that IP address assigned to this computer by a dynamic host configuration disk. But remember, this is a virgin network. I do not have any DHCP or any kind of service. So this is not going to work for us. But if I already had a network, and in the network I have configured one server to be our DHCP, then I can relax and say, oh, I do have a DHCP server that is generating IP addresses and assigning them automatically to all the systems. So the server we are setting up now is the first server ever that will be setting up on this system. And then therefore, there is no other system that can do any other one. So what does that mean? That we ultimately have to manually assign an IP address to the very first one, at least. All right, so this is how to do it. So we go to the Ethernet port, we click this very sign that says IP address is assigned by DHCP. We go to the port, we right-click the network interface card, the NIC, the Ethernet adapter. We right-click it, and then we take properties. All right. Under properties, we come to IP version 4. That is it, IP version 4. And then we say OK. IP version 4, we say OK. Something hiding? Where is this? I'm taking forever to come up. Let's go back. Okay, so it's not coming up. Let's do it again. So I'll come back here and I right click the adapter and I say properties and I take IP version 4 and I say, oh, I should say properties actually, properties. So it brings me here. So this place allows me to now manually, instead of saying obtain an IP address automatically, like we already explained, there is no machine yet set to assign IP address automatically. I'll come here and manually assign an IP address. And the IP address I'm assigning is 192.168.100.10, right? And I press my tab on the keyboard. Automatically, it will bring, excuse me, it will bring up the subnet mask. All right. For default gateway, I don't really need to type anything, but again, if you must, remember that for now, this is the only system we have on this network. So it does everything by itself. There is no other system to refer to. So whenever it requests me to enter an IP address, the only IP address I know right now is 192.168.100.10. All right. This is how to manually assign IP addresses to systems. So we say, okay. We say close, and we close this as well. If you watch this now, in the next few seconds, you are going to see that it will change to the IP address that we just assigned. So instead of, can you see it changed? I didn't click anything. So the IP address of this computer is now 192.168.100.10. All right. So the two things we had to do to prepare this computer for networking is one, insert the appropriate network interface card by going to settings, network, and then configuring, choosing the type of adapter we want. In this case, out of these many options, we took internal network. And then once we did that, we now manually assign an IP address by coming to the Ethernet port, clicking here, and then right-clicking the port, the NIC that we just inserted, and then we'll take properties, and then we'll take IP version 4, and then we'll say properties, and then we'll manually assign here. And then we'll say okay. All right. I think we need to take a break now and understand that you are following. Anything you need me to clarify? Everyone couldn't have just understood that. Okay, let me ask questions then. What is the difference between an enterprise network and a corporate network? Anybody?
Corporate network is about 10,000, and an enterprise is huge, like millions.
Yes, enterprise is bigger network than corporate networks. So corporate networks are smaller networks compared to the size of enterprise networks. Correct. Thank you. Network operating systems come generally in two varieties. What are those two operating systems that we run on networks? Two different types of operating systems that networks run.
Linux and Windows.
Linux and Windows.
Yes, Linux and Windows Server operating systems, correct. All right. When we construct a network running Windows Server operating system, what special name do we call that kind of network?
The domain network.
Domain, not domain, correct. All right. We call it domain. So every time I say domain from now on, I know you understand that I'm talking about a network that is running a Windows Server operating system. And that is exactly what we are trying to build right now. All right. So you seem to be following. Let me ask one or two more questions. In order to promote our Windows Server to become our domain controller, we must install a special service on that server and configure that service. What is the name of that service that we must install? That once installed, makes our Windows Server network our domain controller.
Active Directory Service.
Correct. Active Directory Service. Awesome. All right. All right.
Can y'all repeat that? What
Yeah.
was the special?
Active Directory Services.
Oh yeah, Active Directory. Okay.
Yeah. Or the full name is Active Directory Domain Services.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So you seem to have understood everything we've done so far. In order for me to set up a network, the individual computers that will form the network must each have an IP address. True or false?
True.
True, correct. All right, let's go on there. Okay, so now that we have met all of those conditions, let us now go back and do what we tried to do earlier on. So we'll come back to add rows and features, and then we'll go here, we'll go next, and we'll see all of the possible services and maybe more that are not even here that we can add to this server to make it really, really powerful. Like you already said, the one we're interested in right now is the Active Directory Domain Services. So we'll take that, and then the DHCP server and the DNS server. All right, we have selected those three. All right, now we'll see next. All right, we don't touch anything here. These are big, big terms. You don't understand what they mean. It's for people who will spend like 7 months or 1.5 years studying to understand everything. But for us, we'll just take the ones that we need for now, and then we'll see next. All right. So Active Directory Services. When you are doing your own installation, take time to read what it's telling you here. But of course, I'm already explaining in class. Well, let's say next. DHCP server. For now, let us say next. DNS, next. And then it says, restart the destination server automatically required. If automatically required, yeah, you can restart. That's not really important. If you restart it required, the server would restart automatically, yeah. So what are we going to do now? We're now going to see, it says, I have checked everything. It appears everything is good. So I'm going ahead with installation. We'll now say install. What are we installing? We are installing Active Directory Domain Services. All right. All right, so installation in progress. So this is what I call the coronation of the first man to arrive in this town, in this village, as the king. We are doing the, yeah, that will take a while. And then once that is done and the system restarts, from that point onwards, we stop calling it server. It's still okay if we call it server, but a more appropriate word, title, would be domain controller. All right, while the installation is going on, you may ask questions if you have any.
I got a question.
Okay, go.
So, as we like continue to work through this will all like come together to where's the we can kind of start to be able to like identify whatever we need to and speak that language, or is that just going to take a while?
Yeah, we're learning the language already.
Mm-hmm.
You mean using the right terms and getting used to the terminologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're learning it already. So that's what. So was that your question? Like
Like what I'm saying is like what we learned the first day and then now like with this because it's different stuff. So I'm just saying, does everything tie together at some point, or are we gonna just keep adding on? Because I feel like as you go on, your memories, you start to, some of this stuff is how do you remember everything? Like that's what I'm saying. Is everything going to
how
tie
do you
together?
remember? Yeah, you read the manual, and then by the time you read the manual, you practice And then you see, we have mentioned this in class. By the time you see it in the manual one more time when you are practicing, and then you do that maybe 3, 4, 5 times, then you may not remember them all, but at least some of them will begin to stick to the brain.
Oh, okay.
So there is no dictionary that you are going to buy that you memorize the term set. So that's why I deliberately asked you a question, and I noticed that in answers, you're actually using the right term. So we just learn from one another. Say, oh, okay, just like you asked, what was it you said again? And we repeated Active Directory. So that one should stick. And that question should, oh, okay, there's Active Directory. So we build our vocabulary over time that way. Of course, at the first attempt, we do not expect you to remember everything, no. But at this point, I expect you to know what virtual machine is, VM, what Windows, yeah, you are beginning to build it already. So they are all already in the manual. So once you have access to the manual, and then you practice, they should be synced. And then interact more with people who are already using the terms correctly. They should begin to stick. The brain should begin to remember that. All right, so that's the whole goal of us coming here to explain them so that, like I asked you, you know what enterprise is now, you know what corporate is, you know that there is Linux, or that we may call this Linux or something, but at least you know what we mean. You know there is Windows, you know the place of network interface card. Yeah. Yeah. And then you know there's something called IP addresses. Again, if you are hearing them for the first time and they don't make so much sense yet, no problem. We still have one full month to mention these terms over and over and over until you begin to remember. All right, so what did it say? Configuration required. What did it say? It complete? Did it complete the... You can close this wizard without interrupting running tasks, all right? So, yes, it says installation succeeded, all right? So that is done. So we'll close that. We'll close that. So we have installed our Active Directory domain services, or simply Active Directory. All right. But it says configuration required. In other words, in trying to, this is the sound. This caution means, this says your attention is needed here. All right, so let's click that. What's the attention? It says, yes, I did install your Active Directory, but I need you to click this place to complete DHCP configuration. All right, okay, let's do that. So click that. And then we'll just say commit. And then it's done. All right, that is done. Now, this is not the real work you are learning as a system analyst. But like we said before, we need this environment to practice. That's why we are setting it up. And then we're just taking advantage. Okay, if we are setting up this environment to be able to practice our security analysis, then we may as well just learn how to do it and add one more feather to our cap. All right. So it may sound a bit technical. The real work is not half as technical as this, but if you know this, it will just be addition for you. So ideally, the environment where you'll be working, the network engineers and the system people should have done this for you already. So this is already existing, right? But because it does not exist here, let us set it up together and use the process to know how to do it. And then we can now also claim that because we know how to do it, then it's part of what we know. I'll put it on our resume. All right, so we'll come back here. What else is promote? The next thing we want to do now, having installed the Active Directory services, is to promote this server to become our domain controller. So there are always two steps to it. One, we do the installation, and two, we do the configuration. In this case, we need to use the Active Directory that we just installed to promote this server to become domain control. Are we ready for that, or do you have any questions you still want to ask? Yes, I will still getting it. Who is not getting it? Okay, so I think that will mean everybody's getting it. All right, so let's come back here. Now, let us promote it to domain controller. And then I'll come back and explain what domain controller is while that one is doing it. But in order to promote it to domain controller, we come here. And then we say, now let us do this together. We are going to say, add a new forest. The root domain. Let us call this domain cyber secure, or just say cyber.local. That's the name of our domain. Remember what domain is? The network that we are creating out of this whole process. Let's call that network cyber.local. It will be cyber.com, cyber.gov, but because we are not on the internet, we are not using any of the regular domain names. They just call it cyber.local. It could be any name, but right. So we go to add a new forest, and then we take cyber.local next. All right. So what is the password for the person who is able to do this? Let's just be consistent with the password we have chosen. So every time it asks for password, let us use that same password. The akin 2020. So we say the akin 2024 hash. And then repeat the password. The akin 2024 hash. All right. And then we say next. All right, notice to enter here, so we simply say next. The net bio domain name. Let's wait for the system to capture that by itself. It did. And then we'll say next. All right. Nothing to enter. The system has already populated all of the fields by itself. Then we'll say next. And then it says this is all of my findings. We say, yeah, correct, next. Prerequisites need to be validated. All prerequisites checked. And they all passed successfully. All right, beautiful. Now you can go ahead and complete the installation to make your server your domain controller. All right, so you say install. If we did not complete the IP addressing and the NIC card properly, this is the point where an error would have come up. And then we say, no, I cannot continue because something is wrong. And then we need to go and troubleshoot to find out what is wrong. Right. So you remember we said when you need to restart, go ahead and restart. So you are about to be signed out. So the system is restarting for all of these configurations to take place. All right. Our virtual machine that is running the Windows server is restarting. And once it comes back alive, it's no longer just the ordinary server. It will now be the domain control. Yes.
So I just want to be clear. So
Yeah.
the reason why we're making the server the major one, the domain, is because it is the one the rest of the small enterprise are interacting with, right? That's the
Yes.
reason why we're making the major domain.
That is the reason, but only remove the word only. It's much bigger than that. Yes, okay, let's explain. So once we make this computer domain controller, what services does it offer? What is the big deal about being a domain controller? The main thing is that it now becomes the major system here, so that let me do a better picture. Control N. So we want to make this computer our domain controller. So, and then we have all of our clients. Client 1, client 2, client 3. Okay, so like you explained, we now have all of these. The network interface card, internal network. So, and then this is the network interface card for that, network interface card, network interface card. There is that connection. There is this connection. There is this connection. All right. So anyone trying to log into this network now would come in through here. If there's a user trying to connect to this network, it will come here. And this is our domain controller, which means it is running our Active Directory domain service. So what that means is the list of all users, all computers, all objects is stored on this system. So once you come in here, identification would happen. Who are you that is trying to log into our domain? Oh, my username is this. That is identification. Okay. If your username is this and you're authorized to come onto this network, prove it. Then he adds his password. That is authentication. So there's identification, there is authentication. And then once this is confirmed by the domain controller within the Active Directory services, they are now, oh, okay, we know you, come in. They are now allowed into the domain. And then while they are allowed into the domain, it is said, okay, as you are allowed into the domain, you are only allowed to connect to client 1 between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. Nothing more than that. Don't do anything else. All right, that is authorization. All right, so all of that is confirmed within the Active Directory services. Now you see that Active Directory services is fundamentally important for networks. Without that, how are you going to do your identification, your authentication, your authorization? And even after you say, yes, sir, I'm going to obey, I'm going to follow the authorization that you have given me, and I'm going to access only what you have allowed me to access. As this user logs into the network and begin to attempt to do what they are not allowed to do, what they are not authorized to do, the system is keeping record, like a CCTV camera watching and observing. It's keeping record of everything, everywhere you are going, everything you are attempting to do, the one you did successfully, the one you attempted but did not, everything. And that is called accounting. All right? So when you see IAAA, this is the primary work that is done by the domain controller. All right? And without this, there is no, I mean, how do you set up a network and you don't do identification? It means that anybody can just, it means that you have built a house without doors, windows, and then you are just living a public life inside the house. All right, so does this answer your question about what is the place of Active Directory? Why did we have to introduce Active Directory this whole game? This is what it does. It helps us identify the users that were allowed on our network, authenticate them, give them access to network resources, and then monitor and take logs of everything that they do within the network. This is the part that we are taking into cloud later to expatiate on, to make us Azure IAM engineer. But at the domain level, this is what it does. All right. So what service in the domain controller is responsible for identification, authentication, authorization, and accounting? Anybody? Okay, these are
That's
local.
the Active Directory domain server.
Yes, the Active Directory domain services. But for people who did not get that question, let's put it in a different form. So this that we have drawn here is our corporate network, right? It's our domain. This is our domain. Let's call it what it is. So in this domain, we have client 1, client 2, client 3. And then let us call this client 4, just to confuse you a little bit. So within this domain, which computer, which server, which machine is responsible for our IAAA? Which machine? Is it machine client 1, client 2, client 3, or client 4? Which of these 4 machines is responsible for helping us identify every user that comes in, ensure it's the right user, and then once the user is identified as, oh yes, legal, you are the right user, by way of identification and authentication, they are now authorized and they are allowed to come in while all of their activities are monitored through accounting. Which of these 4 systems does that?
The fourth one,
Sorry?
client 4.
Client 4, okay. So for that reason, what is a better name for client 4 than just client 4? Do you have a special name for client 4? The computer that does that on domain? Yes, domain controller. So this name is wrong. I should be calling it domain controller. Fine. So what is the service that the domain controller has running in it that makes it possible. Why not I use client 3 instead? What is the special service that the domain controller is running that makes it possible and suitable to run our IEEE?
The Active Directory domain service.
If it's everybody that is understanding the way this person is answering questions, then we are very good. We are very good. So have it been the same person answering all of the questions? Yes, apparently. So does it mean it's too hard for the rest of you?
I'm understanding, but I don't know. I don't think I know exactly how to speak it, but I am grasping. Like now, as you explained it better like this, I did grasp it better as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's allowed. Until you master the vocabulary, then you become confident to contribute. What about the others? Who are we leaving behind? Who is not grasping? I think Chris has made contribution. Looks like Kane has been the active one. Isaiah, you still following? Aji Bode.
I have a list
Yes,
of
I'm
all
following,
these
sir.
acronyms. I have a list of all these acronyms. If like anyone wants me to email it or anything, I do have a list of like all these acronyms. So as you explain, I'm looking at my list of acronyms.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure. Yes, you can speak for yourself. I wanted to mention a name of somebody who might need that, but speak for yourself so she can assist with that. So that's the idea of networking and helping one another. That's good. Okay, so somebody chatted you on the chat.
Yes,
Okay.
anyone who needs the list, you can just add your email and I'll send it.
All right, but we seem to be going well. I mean, the way you are grasping, that's good. All right, let's check what we are doing practically. Let's go back to our lab. Oh, this one is still restarting? What's going on? That's taking a hold. That's taking too long. So I'm going to stop the machine and restart it manually. So I'll close the machine and I'll say turn off the machine. And then I'll go back to my virtual box and then I'll right click and I'll say start the machine.
Please, I have a question.
Yeah, please go.
Why is domain control in charge of authentication and identification to other clients, clients 1, 2, and 3?
Okay. Yes. Oh, you already have the question. What was the question?
I said, why is the domain control in charge of authentication?
Domain controller. Yeah, somebody has
Yeah.
to be in charge of that identification. I mean, somebody, yeah, authentication, authorization, and accounting. So you build your house, there has to be the front door, the windows, and then if it's a corporate organization, there has to be a gate through which everybody will come in. Then somebody has to check their ID, make sure they are the right employee that will gain access. Just like the physical world is what we are taking in there. So all of those have to be in place. Otherwise, then you have built a public place where you made budget for 50 people to be able to cater for 50 people, and you are having 500 people every day. Would that not be chaos? And then your health system or your NI system as a bank, all of your confidential information, the public has access to it. Do you want that? No, you don't want that. To maintain high confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the first thing you want to ensure is that only the right people have access to your system and data. And one primary, fundamental rule, one of the first things to do to ensure that is to ensure that only the right users are allowed into your network. So that is a job that has to be done. It just happens that the system only one system has been equipped to do that job. If you equip 3, 4, 5 system, it's just like having 3, 4, 5 gates to the White House. So where do you know? How do you know where the enemies will come from? So block everywhere and make only one gate available for entry and exit, and then you can man and fortify that gate. So in this case, that is what the man who sits at the gate to do all of that. Show me your ID card. Where are you going? Okay, if you go straight there, take your right. Don't go left, just take right. Then the first door to your left, that's where you are going. And then the minute you see him going left, when you ask him to go right, then you know something is wrong. Wrong true. So does that help, that explanation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
However, is there a body that supervises the decisions taken by the domain controller, like GROC?
Yes, when we get into that proper, yes, there are standards, there are frameworks, there are regulations that govern this. When we get into, yes, we'll talk about all of that. For now, we are just creating the lab where we are going to practice all of that. We have not even gotten into standards, bodies, policies, governance, and so on and so forth. Yes, when we get there, we'll mention those ones. But yes, everything we do in cybersecurity. Right now, we're not in cybersecurity yet. We're just trying to create an environment where we can practice some of those things. But to answer your question, everything we do in cybersecurity is regulated by some body, some framework, some regulations. Yes. So it is against the benchmark of those regulations that we audit what we are doing. Is that what we are supposed to do? Are we doing it right? Yes, we are doing it right. It means that we are in full compliance. Good. No, we are not doing it right. It means that we are not in full compliance. Then we put the necessary action to remediate the situation. But we'll talk about all of that. But for now, we are just trying to, at the elementary part, trying to set up a small network. I don't know if that helped or further confused. Hopefully. All right. So we are now, our domain controller is on now. So if we go back to Control or Delete. So earlier on, we're seeing just administrator, but now we are seeing cyber, administrator of the domain, cyber.local. All right. So this is the new. So now we have this system both as a local system and as the domain controller. So let us log in as the domain controller using the same password, the akin 2024. All right. Now that we have successfully set up the domain controller, we have a network of only one computer. We do have a network because there's an IP address, there's a NIC card, there is all of the network protocols configured. Yeah. Now, let us take a glimpse into why did we go through all of this trouble? Why did we go through all of this trouble of setting up domain controller? Let me show you. Now, let us come to tools. You see all of these tools? You are not going to bother about all of them because you are not going to be Microsoft certified system engineers. But you are only going to bother about the security aspect of this network as security analyst. So the first thing I will show you, I'll teach you here, is to go to Active Directory Domain Services. So this Active Directory Administration Center, no, not that. Active Directory Domains and Trust, not that. Active Directory Site and Security. Active Directory Use here, this is it. Active Directory Users and Computers. So I take that. All right. And by the way, everything's still in the notes. So I think this part is for later. Enter domain name, set up password, wait for net bias. Well, you just completed this part. Okay. The next we should be doing this, but let me just show you a glimpse of what we're coming here to do. So we'll come here. For anyone to be able to log into our network, to our domain, to our enterprise, to our corporate network, that person must be an authorized user on this network. So for each of our employees, for each of our customers, whoever it is that we are giving access to this network and for example, the database that this server will hold, we must come here and click cyber local, which is the name of our network. We must click users. Come here and take users. And then we must come, we must come here, right click and say new. New what? New user. So we create an account for this user. This is only possible in the domain controller using Active Directory. All right, so the person that said only earlier on, you now find many other reasons why we installed Active Directory services, not just for that, but also for this other reason. All right, so who is here? Let's see, Kenya, for example. We are going to create an account for the user Kenya so that Kenya will be able to log in to our network. So we'll come here and say Kenya. And then last name, let's just say A. Kenya A. Your user login name will be Kenya at cyber.local. And then we'll say next. And your password will be the akin 2024 hash, the akin 2024 hash. And then we can take user must change password as soon as the login. Next. Awesome. So we have created a user account for Connect. So now we are going to Connect's office to install a client. From that client, Kenneth will be able to log into the corporate network of this organization, and he will be able to do his work, his job, as whatever I've authorized him to be able to do. So this is his username and password. Of course, we'll come back here and take a deeper look, take a deep dive into what is possible. But I just wanted you to know that every user that is able to use this network would have this accomplished for them. Create username for them. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now let us go and set up a client that will put in Kenneth's Kenneth's office. I mean, imaginarily, even though it's a virtual environment, so that Kenneth will now be able to log in from that client. In fact, let us set up client 1, client 2, client 3, like we depicted earlier on. All right. Any question with this? Let's just leave this one and then go and set up new virtual machines and tap one to connect. In fact, not to connect, we'll just put one in the central place where everybody can log in. Once connect is done working, he logs out, and then the next person comes in, logs in, and continues work. And then once they are done, they log out and so on and so forth. All right, so let's run this. So we'll go back to our virtual environment where we have only one machine running. For now, I'm just going to stop this machine so that we'll have all of the resources available to focus on building our new machine. It will really save us time than to have this one using some of our memory while we are not even using it. So permit me to just shut this down here so that we can focus on it. So I'll say part of the system. Okay, so now that is part of. Now let us set up a new. All right. This is especially useful if you have low memory like 16 gig. 32 gig, I can still manage to have 2, 3 systems running, but it's just faster if I have only one. All right, guys, let me set up. Before we set up, let me quickly go to, in fact, let's go to the notes. I think I'm rushing now. I'm getting excited. Let me slow down. All right. So this is what we want to do now. We want to create Windows client for each. I mean, like we said, maybe one. To do that, we first of all go to Microsoft Evaluation Copy Center and download, let's click that, download Windows 10 Enterprise. You know, these things keep changing. Maybe it will be Windows 11 Enterprise now, but whatever it is, one that has Enterprise attached to it. All right, so we'll come here. And this time, instead of Windows Server operating system, we are looking at Windows 10 Enterprise operating system. Not server, but enterprise. All right, so like we did before, we'll quickly complete this form in order to download. Job role, maybe admin, anything's okay. So okay. All right, so we'll do that, we download. All right, so select the Windows 10 Enterprise you want to download. It would always be 64 bits, right? Enterprise download, 64 bits. Does the note say that? Let's make sure that's in the. It says click ISO and continue. Check for 64 bits and double click language to English, then click download. Where is it? Okay, so we click this ISO Enterprise download English United States. Yeah, that should be okay for me. So I click. So that is downloaded. All right. But if I leave that to complete download, it's going to waste like 40 or 30 or even 20 minutes of our time. All right. But I already have a downloaded copy just like we had yesterday. If I go to download folder, I mean the other day, and I go to downloads, I'm going to see that I already have one downloaded. Which one? Okay, maybe that's the one that downloaded. I'm sorry. This is the one we downloaded the other day. This is the one that's correctly downloaded because it's not complete. That's why I show it. Anyway, so if I go to here, I'm going to see the previous downloads that I have so that I save our time. And this one is Windows Enterprise. And let me look for Enterprise. Look at it, Client Enterprise. Evaluation copy. This is what I want. All right. So now we have downloaded the server. So let us go ahead and put it on our machine. So we'll come here, we'll create a new machine. New machine. Let's call this one client 1. And then we'll leave it there. What ISO, what operating system I'm going to put inside? Let's look for it. And then we'll go to download folder, this one. Well, downloads. It's inside here now. What's going on? Let me check. So I come here to ISO and I say this one is server. That's not the one I want. So I go to order and I say go to download folder, open Oracle. Yeah. So why was I not seeing that? Okay. So this is the one that I'm looking for this time. So I take that one and I say open. That is it. All right, so that is selected. And I say, I want to attend to the installation. And I say next. How much resources do I want now? Because I shut down my server, I can afford to play around with resources. Let me attach that amount of memory, that amount of processor, so that Kenneth will be able to practice without any hindrance. And then that's it. The next, it says it needs minimum of 50 gig. I think I can give you more than 50 gig. I will give you 8. All right. You don't have to, just because I have the resources to play around with. All right, so next, finish. All right. So we have assigned the resources. So let us start the system now. We right click and we'll say start the system. And just when the system is starting, it will realize that there's no operating system. And then it will now load to install the operating system from the link that we have provided to. All right, so this is how we're installing our first client. And this is what we are going to repeat on the second, third, and fourth virtual machine in order to have multiple clients. Right. All right, so it's going to take a while to complete. So it's a good time to bring in your questions if you have it. So what this does for you as new entrant to IT is to give you that experience to say, I have worked in a corporate organization on an enterprise network, both as a user and as the administrator of the domain. Because as administrator, you are first of all setting up everything we are setting up now, and then all of the setting up of user accounts. The user is going to call you to say, administrator, I forgot my password, please help me. You are going to help them. The HR is going to call you and say, come on. And say, we are terminating the appointment of this person. Us both there. So you are going to use this kind of network to gain all of those experiences, which is useful at interview. So you now say, after 1 or 2 years of all of that experience, I now migrated to become a cybersecurity analyst, where I now learn to use these tools and I understand the concept that the lady was asking about using certain frameworks to do stuff. Yeah. So this is a good place to start. All right, so we have no choice but to accept. And then here, remember here, we had this, we said, don't just click upgrade, do custom installation. Okay, you're familiar with it because we did this before. Yes, I see somebody unmuted because they wanted to ask it.
It was me, but almost as I was about to ask, you answered the question.
Mm-hmm. That means I'm a wizard. Mm-hmm. All right. So we can close.
So it's important that we install the server first before the operating system, right?
No, before the client, right?
Before the client.
It makes sense.
Okay.
Because the first person to come to the village is the king. So it makes sense because that prepares the whole environment for clients to begin to join. So in a big, I mean, for me now as a network administrator, as the boss of the organization, I'll just go to in those days when it was purely on-prem job, I'll go to the site, install the server like I just did, and then I just install the first client, and then I tell my boys, okay, go on. What I just did, now repeat it for the other 30 clients. So the server is the main work. And then once I'm done with that, they can repeat it without me being there. Yeah. All right. So, like we said, this is going to take time. It will be boring just sitting and watching. If there are no questions, I'll ask a few questions, then we'll take a break so that we don't just sit here and then. So, but any questions?
So I have a question.
Okay, sure.
Yes, this whole process, can it be done remotely?
Yes. Can be done remotely.
Okay. So that means we need access to like a private network to be able to create more clients, right?
And yes, you do. You do. You do. And then to be able to create client and set up this kind of environment, that kind of remote job is not likely to be using this type of type 2 hypervisor. You'll be using a more robust kind of hypervisor, type 1 hypervisor. But in any case, the existence of cloud has saved you and removed the burden of having to do this all by yourself. The whole essence of cloud is this has been done for you, and much more resources than you can, 1,000 times more resources than you can create and execute by yourself have been made available in cloud. So to answer your question, why that is possible, unless a cloud company itself is employing you to do that for them, ordinarily you will just rent the ready-made service available in cloud by being a customer to AWS, to Azure, where the virtual machines are already available, the networking is already done, the storages are already there in unlimited capacity. Not this one that you are signing 2 gig, 50 gig, and all those. So, like I said, cloud is the modern day replacement of this, or not replacement, cloud is the peak representation of the limitations that we are trying to create within our own virtualized environment, our own private virtualized environment. So rather than try to do this, I'll just, how much is cloud? How much is all of these resources? Less than $2 in a whole month, or $3. So I'll just patronize it. I'll just get one in cloud. And that's what we're typically going to. But we just wanted to have a feel of how it is done from the elementary level before we grow to use it in cloud. All right. So in cloud, this Active Directory services is okay. So maybe I should just even show you this. Have you seen cloud before? Hmm?
I'm not sure.
What about you, Brooke? Have you seen cloud before?
I'm not sure if I understand that.
No, have you logged into cloud environment like AWS?
Oh yeah. Well, like cloud, like through my like PC and like my iPhone and stuff. Yes.
Okay, have you been into Azure Cloud before?
No.
No,
Okay, so
I've
let's go.
not.
Let's go to AWS Azure Cloud. So, which of them should we do? This is not the system where I can log in. AWS.
I've done AWS Cloud before.
Okay. So you rather just go and set up stuff in AWS Cloud than try to set this up remotely. No, I may not be able to log in through here because I've not signed it through here before. This guy may not know my username and password. Dean at the no, it's going to do multi-factor level. Don't worry, I'll show you cloud from a different system so that you understand what I mean by. Yeah, we're going to log into cloud so that you just take. At least let me be the first person to show you cloud.
I got a question.
Okay, yeah.
So like when you, let's say like, you know, somebody get hired as a Windows administrator, would
Okay.
the main domain be already set up and you would just be on the team, maybe adding clients or deleting people or, you know, just managing?
Yes.
Is that how that would?
Yeah, that's likely to be how it works.
Okay.
So the domain is already set up. This company has been in business for the past 7 years, so everything's already running. So you just come in, every time they have a new employee, you create an account for the new employee, you set up additional machine. Like somebody was asking, can you do this remotely? They say right now we have 53 virtual machines. We need 3 more virtual machines. You set them up like we are doing right now. Yes, that is likely to be the case. However, what if the entire virtual machine the entire network goes down? They need to set up everything from scratch. Isaiah. So what would you do at that point? Tell them you don't know how to. So for that reason, you are going to prepare to be able to set up things from scratch in case and they do go down occasionally. Maybe once in 50 years, once in 20 years, once in 10 years. Disasters happen. So, yeah.
So like, you know, when we be hearing about it's a data breach with these companies, is that what's going on? Like somebody got through the
Yeah, data breach or generally security breach could be one of 30 different things. Could be one of 30 different things. It could be as simple at the level that we know now. You know, we have not even started the journey, we're just at the beginning. But from the little that we know now, it could just be that the person that is not authorized to access a database somehow found some vulnerabilities and was able to access the database, and therefore there was a breach. I mean, if you were not authorized to do it, and therefore provisions was not meant for you to contain you while you do it, yes, that would be a breach. The data getting into wrong hands, even if you do not do anything with data, just use logging into a bank and seeing the confidential information about all of the customers, that is already a breach, even if you do not do anything harmful other than that. That is a breach, and the GDPR can fine you up to 20 million euros for that breach. So yeah, it could be as simple as somebody who should not see as your confidentiality being compromised, somebody who should not see your data sold, or it could be as complex as your entire network. Some Russian or some Chinese digital missile, in quotes, sent to your network actually found some vulnerabilities, and then they were able to come into your network and brought down your entire network. It could be as disastrous as that. So anything, they are all part of security breaches. So did I answer your question? So it's not one particular thing that I'll point to say, this is what they mean by security breach. It could be one of so many things.
Yeah, that answered it. I'm glad we will learn how to, you know, do it from scratch if something happened. I think that's important, you know, for your foundation. So
Exactly.
yeah.
That's exactly why we're doing this, learning all of this from scratch. In another 3 months, you should be talking as experts and probably even for forgotten that you did it. But this is always there for you to remember that, oh, I started my IT career at this level, and therefore, no, it is not likely that somebody can come and speak some jargons or threaten you with some terms that he feels you will not understand because you did start from scratch. You understand all of these things. So you'll be working as part of a team, 8-man team, 15-man team. There'll be security analyst, there'll be database operator, there'll be security professional, there'll be operator, there'll be all kinds of people. So as you're in meeting and you are discussing, you are not likely to be saying, come again, what do you mean by that? What did you mean? No, 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 no. You have gone through this training and you know what everybody's talking about. Whether they call it domain, enterprise, they say my route, the network layer has problem. I think I need to focus on the data link layer to resolve this issue. You know what they mean by all of that because you would have covered protocols, POS, OSI model, and all of that as part of this training. So essentially, you are able to speak. Just the question you asked earlier on, you are able to, maybe not, even if you are not able to speak it fluently, at least when you are in the gathering, when they are speaking it, you understand what they are talking about. And that is the first hurdle to cross to looking for a job. The interviewer says, he uses one word that you do not understand, might get away with that. But he uses 2-3 words and you are not, you must understand the language, the vocabulary. That's what we are doing. All right. So looks like this one is I just complete this installation together, enter the username and password, and then we'll be good to go for go on break. Previously. So where are we now? We are somewhere here. Installing the VM. Set your language, your currency, your keyboard. And that's the next thing. Are you sure you want to? No. What am I doing? Are you sure you want to cancel transfer for me? I do not know what that is, but so at the interview, at the first interview, the person is saying, we run an enterprise network here, and we have a client base of over 3 million customers. What at that point, once you hear that, what can you just make a meaningful contribution in any form, whether in the form of question, likely in the form of question to that statement? All right, so it's introducing the organization and it says, as an enterprise network, we have a fairly large client base of about 3 million customers who can make a contribution to that statement. Just to anything that can impress me to help me understand that you know you understand what I just said. Anybody? Just anything meaningful, not rubbish.
Sorry, come again with the question, sir.
So I am your interviewer and I'm introducing the organization where you are coming to work. Our organization is fairly big. We run an enterprise network and we have over 2 million customers on our database. So talking from the perspective of what we have learned so far, any contribution to make with that?
That means the company is a corporate, they use a corporate network.
Ah.
No. Can you ask the interviewer like how many domain controller do they use to
It's always usually one domain controller. Yes,
only
I appreciate that you use a keyword there, but that's not what I'm looking.
Okay, I will be asking if what cloud service they are using.
We have not done cloud, so I seem like I don't know anything about cloud. So within what we have done so far.
Maybe what client, like what?
So when they say they have millions of subscribers, that definitely means that there will be mobile devices across the globe.
What enterprise are they under?
What do you mean by what enterprise are they under? What possible enterprises could they be under?
Well, you said they had millions of users, so I know enterprise is millions.
Okay, so your contribution is likely to be, yes, he actually already said that we run an enterprise organization. Organization is an enterprise network, and we have 2 million to 3 million subscribers. Yeah, he already said it.
what operating system do they use?
Now, I would like to know what server client they use, whether they're using the latest server client, what Windows version they're using, Windows server clients they're using.
Server clients, there are two different words. Why are you combining them? We'll come back to that. But I'm interested in the person who said, who was the other person? Who said, how did
what network server do they use? Whether Linux or Windows?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. That's the kind of question I'll ask too. So at that point, I'll just say, oh, you must be running a Linux operating system. You must be running Linux operating system on your server. Am I right? Yes. That's what I will ask. It just means that it doesn't mean that other people are wrong, but it just means that I will ask exactly the same. Because you talked about enterprise. I think that's what the first contributor wanted to say when he said corporate. And
Yes,
then maybe he wanted to say enterprise. And then Isaiah observed that corporate is not the right word. Corporate will be for only a few thousand clients or customers. Here we're talking about millions of customers, so corporate will not be the right word. So we already know the right word is enterprise. So a very good question is, if it's enterprise, then you must be running Linux operating system. Is that right? Yes. So yes, that's what I will ask. That's the most fit question for this kind of scenario. Others you tried, beautiful, but so client is one thing, server is something else. But we are talking about client-server network. Client-server as a network, we are talking about this kind of network that we call domain. So to ask what kind of client-server is not exactly the correct way to ask. Maybe what you wanted to ask was what Kenny eventually asked. What operating system you must be running? In fact, it's logical to, if you ask that question, you must be running Linux operating system. It tells a lot that you understand that at that level, it's just compared to Windows, it is Linux operating system that can handle that task comfortably and conveniently. It sends really good signal that you know about this. All right. So that was just a challenge that it doesn't mean that we fail, but it's just that that was the best answer. Awesome. Let's see. What do we have? Oh, this one is ready. So we just go to US. Yes. Yes. Bear with me. Let's quickly complete this one. I need you to actively be part of this installation so that we don't go on break and we miss any part of it. All right, Kane. So if you ask that question, I tell you, yes, we run Linux operating system. So what's the next thing? I guess that interview will end for you because you are going to say, I'm a Windows expert, not a Linux person. I do not. Right?
Maybe what cloud services do you not use?
Huh?
Maybe what cloud services do you use?
Yes, that would be the right question at some point, sure. But I've not taught you cloud, so I'm asking the question based on what we have learned in this past 3, 4, 5 hours of training. Because if I tell you we'll use AWS, what contribution are you going to make? Well, you don't know anything. I mean, I'm assuming you don't know anything about cloud. I'm not talking about the knowledge you already had before coming to class. So, all right. But if you insist, let me answer the question. We use AWS. So what are you going to do from that point? Any other meaningful contribution? Was there a reason you asked that question? What were you trying to deduce from the answer?
No, nothing really.
Exactly. That's what I mean by the question has to be impactful. All right, so let's go. Watch out for the. So right here, we're not just going to create a username and password like we normally do. Here, we're going to say domain join instead. That this is going to be, like somebody was saying, and he imported that knowledge from somewhere else. This is going to be a client that will be joining to a server, to a domain controller, not just connected to the internet. So it's going to be part of a client server network. So we're going to take this domain join instead. So click that. And then here, who is going to use this PC? Let us say manager or admin. And then we say mixed. And admin's password will be the akin 2024. Let's go. Okay. Next. The akin 2024. Ask me 3 security questions. I don't care about the question. I just give my answer as the item, whatever question it is, in case I forget my password. Or I'm trying to access something and it wants to authenticate. Is it really you? Then answer this question. So whatever question it is, I'll always answer the item. Bear with me, the system is unstable. It's just getting itself. My answer is always the item. And then if you ask me the third question, it's still the item. All right. And with that, we should have a...
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So if you manage the server and the client side, then you are a network administrator, right?
Yes. But why do you keep referring to client? Everything
I
related...
mean, if you manage client side and the server side for a company, that means you are a network administrator.
Yes. But can I make a correction now?
Okay.
Okay. So there is no need to mention clients. Everything we are doing is related to the server, and just mentioning the server alone covers the client. Client is not separate from server. It's a single network. So it's not like we have 2 networks, one for server, one for client. So the correct way to ask that question would, if you manage the server of a corporate network, you are the network administrator. Correct. That means. So no need to mention client as well.
So the clients are just users.
Yeah, the clients are just computers. And as long as you can manage the server, the responsibility and the task of creating and managing clients are already embedded in the work of the server.
Okay.
Not like you are going to see, there is nothing that, yeah, the clients are just terminals for entering the network. So the big deal on the network is the server. The clients are just terminal. So it's not worth mentioning. So that question can be rephrased to, if you manage the server of the corporate or enterprise environment, does that make you the network or server administrator? Yes. I don't know if that makes sense. But there's a way you pose the question and it will show from the composition of the question that yes, this is mature question or this is still, So talk about the server, and then unless it's absolutely necessary, don't mention the client. Okay, it's just like you are talking about a federated state or the United States of America, and you keep mentioning each of the states every time you refer to United States. That's what it looks like. So once you mention United States, we know that you are talking about all of the states together. So every time you mention server and a network, we know that by implication, implicitly speaking, you're also covering the points. All right. Okay, so what do we have here? I think our client is ready now, and then we are now ready to, our client is fully installed, ready to be added to the domain so that we'll now have the domain, the client already started it. Okay, so now that we have our client ready, let's go to our domain controller and start it as well so that we'll have the two of them on. So let us start this. We go to start. Number. So we have our client running as well as our server. So when we come back from break, we have not added the client to server. The server is not aware yet that it has a brother that it should allow into the network. So right now, there is still only one machine on the network, and that machine is the domain controller. When we come back, we are going to add the client to the network so that we'll now have two machines on the network, the domain controller and client one. All right. So
Before you go, can you actually, like, the question you asked, what are the questions can you ask the interviewer?
yes, yeah, Kenny already said it. I agree with that. That's the same question I'll ask.
No, you asked again if we mentioned the Linux or Windows operating system. What are the questions can you ask?
At this level, let's just no, I thought somebody was going to say something that sometimes one person does not know it, or somebody might just say something like, oh yeah, that's another good approach to it. So no, that was the only answer that I had in mind. To just give me, as the interviewer, the impression that, oh, you do understand that when it comes to managing millions of customers on enterprise network, you have the option of running you have the better option of running a Linux-based server. So yeah, that's all. I do not have another question at that level. Any other question that I ask now is above the level of what will be above the level of what we have covered. No, I do not have another question on top of it. Unless you have. The question that you said you would ask, the one that is class specific, is a good one, but at the level of what we know now, it doesn't really make so much difference now. Maybe in another, if I ask this question again in 5 weeks, then that your answer will definitely be a major one. In fact, at that level, even more correct than the currently correct answer. Yes. Adetukumbo, you read your hand?
Yeah. So I want to go if now in the AWS network, if I set up an EC2 machine, is that like creating a server?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Virtually all of them, any machine that you create in cloud is a server. You don't want to create client in cloud. What for? So you create machines in cloud so that you can put a service there that will be available to the general public or for specific. Yes, they are all servers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go on break. We've done almost 2 hours without break. So the ladies won't be tired. Let them go and rest for 15 minutes. And then I also will take something for my cup. Oh, so we go 15 minutes time, and then we start. All right, guys, welcome back. Yeah. Excuse. All right, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, guys. Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
No,
we're here.
sir.
Okay. All right, so let us configure our machine together now, our client one. So what's the first thing we want to do to add it to the network? We emphasized that many times for the previous machine. So who can lead us now? What's the first thing we want to do here? All right, everybody understood that? That's the first thing. What's the second thing we should do? After we assign a NIC card, and we ensure that it's facing internal because the other one want to attach it to is also facing internal. What's the next thing we should do when it comes to
Assign an IP address.
yes, correct. Assign an IP address. All right. So you can put down those points. To join computer to network, first thing, number one, just sparingly, number one, attach NIC card. In the case of virtual machine, you know where to go, machine. The note already says it, but you can just put it. All right, thank you, Isaac. So that's number two. Let's go to number two. Now you don't even know where to do that, right? On this machine. So you are going to look for it. You are going to search. To what apparatus on the system? To what interface do you attach IP address? To the NIC card. Or better still, called the Ethernet card. So you see Ethernet settings, it takes you there. All right, so when you get to Ethernet setting, you could have it up to four Ethernets, but in this case, we take our Ethernet, change adapter options, change advanced, network and sharing center. Let's see what's on that change adapter options. Okay, yes, I'm familiar with this. So remember this, so we'll right click this, and then we'll say properties like we did the first time. And then we come to IP version 4, right? Where is it? Here. IP version 4, and then we'll say properties. All right, here we manually assign IP address just like we did. The first IP address was 192.168.100.10. That was the first one. This time we are going to use .11. We cannot have two IP IP addresses are unique, so we cannot have the same IP address exactly two times. No. All right. Gateway. If it wants to get out of this network, if this system wants to get out of this network to external network, what system should it pass through to get out? It should pass through our ADDS. It should pass through to this our gateway. So what's the IP address of our gateway? 192.168.100.10. And then it's not really important for now, but you can just see our DNS server has configured this 192.100. 192.168. These are options. 168.100.10. All right, but the important thing is we have assigned an IP address and it came automatically with its old MAC address when we press tab. That's it. All right.
You need to change, yes. It's 190 instead of 192.
Oh, okay, let me see. 19, okay, correct, thank you. All right, so we'll say okay, and then we'll say close. At least now you know how to assign IP addresses to systems. You can read books for 3 months and you still don't know how to do that practically. All right, so that is done. I think we're ready for networking. We changed those 2 parameters. And we fixed those 2 initial parameters. And there was the next thing now. The next thing now is to find out if these 2 systems are seeing each other. All right. So the tool, the troubleshooting tool that we use, yeah.
Please, sorry for pulling everybody back. I had an emergency, so I did not see how you set up the IP address to a user.
To a client, to a machine.
Yes, please, can you quickly run over it?
Were you in the first part of the class?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, exactly the same thing we did in the first one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
see you coming from an IP address area side now.
Yes.
Okay, that is what I don't know how to do.
Okay, so we look for Ethernet settings, because we know that our Ethernet, our cable is plugged to our Ethernet port. So we'll come to Ethernet, and then we'll say change something about the Ethernet. What we want to change is the IP address. So we right click and we'll say properties of the NIC card. We'll call it NIC card, Ethernet card, the same thing. And then like we did before, we say IP version 4 properties. And then from being automatic, that's where it was. There was nothing here. We now clicked use this one, and then we assign. We'll put the numbers. In this case, 192.168.100.11. Because we already used .10. So we cannot use .10 again, so we use .11. All right. So we said okay. And then
Okay,
we'll close.
so this gives an IP address to every user.
IP addresses are not assigned to users. They are assigned to machines.
Machines, okay.
Yes. What is assigned to user is username and password, and that is what we created earlier on for Kenneth on the domain control, and we'll create more. All right. IP addresses are allocated to machine, not to users. And to what part of the machine are IP addresses attached? To the memory, to the CPU, to the storage, to where? Anybody? What part of the system accepts our IP address and we assign it? To what part of the system do we assign IP address?
The CPU.
When we assign IP address to a machine, which part of the machine takes our IP address?
Machine. It's not the network.
It's the network interface card, the Ethernet card. And that was why we went now. Why is this so difficult? When we wanted to assign IP address, we looked for Ethernet. Look at it. Do you understand this diagram, this picture here? It means to a computer, to a machine, to a system, to a computer, there is a cable attached. Where is the cable attached to? To the NIC interface, otherwise called network interface card. This is why we came to machine, and then we went to settings, and then we inserted that. We said network, and we said adapter. So adapter is, whether we call it adapter or we call it network adapter or we call it NIC interface, the same thing. So now, to what part of a machine do we assign IP address? When we attach IP address to a machine, which part of the machine accepts the IP address? The adapter card. All right. Okay, so yes. So the thing we want to do now is, what's the next thing? join the computer to domain. But it will save us a lot of trouble if we first of all know whether the two computers are already seeing each other. And by virtue of assigning the same IP addresses to them and differing only in the last part, they should automatically see each other. Now let's find out. We are going to go to command prompt. This is networking. All right, so we'll come to this part of the system where S parts work from. And we're going to say ping, what's the IP address of our server? 192.168.100.10. All right, and if we press enter, it's going to say, I am able, I sent some messages in bytes to that system and it replied me. So it's my brother. I'm able to see it. We're on the same network. We are good to go. No problem. There's a link between them. All right. If they know at interview that you know how to use this, and if they ask you a question that is related to giving this answer and you pass it, it's as good as you have the job, provided you are not claiming too much experience. So pinging an IP address and then getting reply establishes that there is a connection between this machine and the machine you are pinging. What is the IP address of this machine? 192.168.100.11. What is the IP address of the machine you want to find out if there is a link? So this is the IP address of the server that we entered earlier. Can we also use call? Yes, you can use call if it's a website. You can use call for website. But ping is for machine. All right, so you can do call. Let's not confuse the other people that do not even know what call is. All right, so this says that there's a connection. Let's also go to the server now. So let's go to our virtual environment, and then we see two machines. Let us go to this machine. All right, Adetukumbo.
Yeah. So, sir, does the server come with a dedicated IP address, or that's the default one that you just entered now?
Who can help us answer that question, please? Somebody, so that at least boost my confidence that at least somebody has been listening to the lecture from point one. Who can help me prove that we've talked about that? Anybody? Does the server come with a default IP address?
No, we generated the IP address.
Okay. So what was the IP address that we generated and then we assigned to the server earlier on? Do you remember?
Yes, 192.
Yeah.
168.
Yeah.
.100.10.
Correct. Thank you. So how did we get that IP address? Did we do the mathematics of that IP address? Or did I say at this level, you are not right for IP addressing, so I'm just going to give you one that is valid, and then maybe later on we'll talk more about it. Right?
Yes, like you said, at this level, you just give us one because we
Yes.
don't need, we can't invent one for the now.
Yes, correct. So that was how we got the IP address at the Adetukumbo. Servers or systems do not come with default IP addresses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So for this .11, this is, if you follow your note, this is how we also got it. But for this part now, generally what we mean here is, because IP address is a big topic on its own, reserved for network engineers. Right now, we are not really focusing on networking, so we'll just do a little bit of it. All right. But what it means is that any IP address that starts with 192.168.100, as long as it starts with that network part, your one machine starts with it, another machine starts with that same one, then automatically they belong to the same family. They are bearing the same surname. And therefore, when they see each other, the blood will flow and they will say, ah, you are my brother, it will flow. So that's how come one was able to ping the other one. Now let's also go to the other one and try to ping the next one for me. So this time you come to server. So let's go to server because we have 2 machines running now. So let's come to server. Let's log into server. And then let's say, what's the password? And then to find out whether this machine is seeing the other machine, because what is the use trying to join them together when there is even no link between them? So don't wait until you run into problems. You first of all check whether the link exists. So the way to do it is to come to the search bar and type command prompt. So this means anytime I want to enter a command, a shell command, a PowerShell command, I'll come here to this part of the system called command prompt. Bear with me. So I didn't even know what I canceled it. I just thought it was it. So I come back here and say command, and then I click this. It brings me to command prompt. And then I'm going to say, your brother tried to connect with you and it got through to you. So as far as sending data to you, your brother has no problem. Are you also able to see your brother? And your brother's IP address is ping 192.168.100.11. And it's going to say, I'm trying to ping my brother, but I'm knocking. He's not opening for me, so I'm not able to reach him. I cannot reach my brother. Request timed out. Request timed out. Request timed out. So this calls for troubleshooting. So what's the problem? The IP address belongs to the same family. We installed card. Why are you not able to see your brother? Okay, let us come back here now and analyze the situation. I don't know what I'm not doing wrong. Okay, it's open. Okay. So let me paint the scenario that I'm talking about. So I have system 1, I have system 2. Oh, sorry, I should have muted it. All right, so these are interview questions. This is the fundamentals you'll be finding out if you know. All right, so I have machine 1, machine 2. So from here, I want to see if there a link between these 2 machines, because I'll be sending a lot of data later on. But is there a link? So the command to use is ping that machine. What is this machine? 192.168.100.11. So I ping that. And then this machine is 192.168.100.10. And then also establish, is there a link? Because there's going to be heavy transfer of data between these 2. So let me establish first whether there's a link. So when we ping this, we got reply, but we'll ping this signal. So what are the possibilities? All right, without wasting your time because you are still new, I'm going to assume that what is happening here is that the door for this ping to come into this place is blocked. And that is why it's not able to go. Oh, is it the other way? It's not able to go in. It's bouncing. That's why I said timed out. I try to reach my brother and I see that it's not. But this guy was able to enter this door allowed. But this one does not allow. All right. So this door that you use to enter system is called port. All right. So the port that allows this protocol, I don't know if I do. ICMP is blocked. That is the explanation. So what is blocking this port? What is blocking the port is that this machine came ready-made with a default firewall that is blocking every part and making it impossible for data to come into this machine from the outside world. So that's why it was bouncing back. So as a solution, at least temporary solution for now, until we know to do better, do you know the name of this service that comes by default to cover your entire system so that no protocol? You know what? I think we'll explain that later. Nothing is able to come into this machine. What's it called?
Firewall.
Sorry? Firewall. All right. Thank you. That's correct. So what we are going to do temporarily to solve this problem is let us remove this firewall so that there'll be nothing blocking this port from coming in here. All right, let's go and do it. So we go to that system, .11 that could not be reached. That's our .11 is our client. So let's come back to client. Let me just close this up for a minute. So we'll come back here and then we'll go to, again, we don't know where firewall is. So rather than searching the whole place, we just search for firewall. All right, so we'll see firewall and network protection. All right. All right, so we'll see all firewalls here. Domain firewall is on. All right. So what you just want to do now, right now, without bothering you about the details, I just want to say this domain firewall that is on, off it. Remove the firewall. All right. Are you sure? Yes. Is there any other firewall that is on? If we scroll down, maybe we just refresh or take one step back. And then we see that domain firewall is now off. There's one more firewall. This one is active. Let us off it. Private network firewall. So we say turn it off. Yeah. Let's take one step back. And then, is that all? Let's take one step back. Okay, so that one is turned off, that one is turned off. There's one more firewall. So let's turn this firewall off. Then we'll see. Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right, so if we take one step back, we see firewall off, firewall off, firewall off. Okay, so we have removed the firewall that was blocking access from the server to client. So now let us go back to the server now and say, go and ping your brother again. Now that we suspect, what we suspected was blocking the transfer have been removed. So we'll go back to, excuse me. We'll go back to server. Yeah, okay. And then we repeat the same command. All right, last time we said that it's the time now, but if we repeat the command now, we say, oh, I'm able to get through now. I can reach my brother now. I'm getting reply. All right. So we can now ping both directions. All right. So it means that we are ready for business now. We can now go ahead and do. So interview question for this will be, you have 44 systems on your network, and there's this particular system, this particular machine, whether you call it device, machine, system, computer, everything the same, that you cannot reach. In trying to troubleshoot, in trying to find out what the problem is so that you may rectify the issue. How are you going to, what are the steps, what are the possible steps you may take in order to troubleshoot the situation? One common step is to ping that remote system. If the pinging says I can get through, it means that the link is good. Then go and look for your problem somewhere else. The link is good. But if the pinging says I cannot get through, all right? Oh, then the problem is because there is no link between them. So if you now find out there's no link between them, what are the possible things you can do to restore link between them? All right. So what we have done in this case is to remove the firewall. But in operations, that's not, you don't do that in operations. You don't remove firewall. As network engineers, there'll be other, when we get to cloud, you'll see other things you can do. But for now, let's not focus too much on networking. Let us stay on the path to making us, to preparing us for security analyst. Anyway, so the link is there now. Now that the link is there, let us now finally go and join this computer to the domain. And that is when we know that, wow, we have achieved something. So this is how to create a network. And whatever we have done here successfully, that is what we now repeat on the other 74 computers to join them one by one to the domain. All right. So this is our server. Our server is already prepared. So where we need to go is our client. So we'll go back to client. This is our client. On this client, we are going to go back to Ethernet again. Ethernet. All right, so we'll go to Ethernet. And then we'll come to, we see here, change adapter settings, firewall, network sharing, change advanced sharing. Let's check this, change advanced sharing. Let's check this. Advanced sharing, what's there? All right, is this what I'm looking for? No, I don't think it's what I'm looking for. Change, you know what? Let me check here. Properties, let me check. No, it's not there. All right, so okay, so let me look for it in the note. So I come to my note. So in order card on the domain controller, rename the client if I want to. Yeah, you can try that, but configure the virtual machine to communicate. We just completed that. You can view the default IP design, enable Ethernet card. All right, we check for machine IP. We went to prompt and we tried to ping. We did that. We even disabled the firewall, right? To add client to machine, I'm going to use the enter administrator's username. Right click this PC and then property. So I should go to this PC, not that place. Okay. Control B. All right. So I'm going to join this computer to domain. This is what I do. I look for this PC. I was in the wrong place. This PC. All right. So I right click this PC and I take right click, properties. All right. So it brings me here. All right. Then I go to here. I see what I'm running, Windows Enterprise, all of this detail. I go to change product key, read Microsoft service, read this. No, I don't want any of that. Remote desktop, advanced system setting. That's what I do. advanced system settings. So let's go there. All right. When I come here to advanced system settings, I'm going to look for, let's click computer name. All right. If I want, I can change the name of the computer, but that's not what I want to do now. Rename this computer or change its domain, or this is what I want to do. I want to change the domain that this computer belongs to. So I'm going to click change. All right. I can call it Lecture2 if I don't like that name, but that's not my interest. My interest now is I want to make it a member of a domain. So I'll click member of domain. Do you remember the name of our domain? You don't remember? Let's quickly go and check. So we'll go to our server. And then we are done with this. We go to server manager. And then let's quickly look around to get the name of our domain. Oh, this server manager cannot load it. What do you mean? I'm going to introduce error. Okay, let me just try. So I come here. And then this is the name of the domain, cyber.local. Can you see domain cyber.local? All right. So I come back to my client and I say, right now there is only, I come back to my client and I say, I need you to join the domain cyber.local. All right. So I put it there and I say, okay. All right. And it says this. So what it says this, congratulations. Because normally it will not say this. It will tell you, I cannot do this. You have a lot of troubleshooting to do before this one can come up. But now it's ready to say, to join this computer to domain. So who are you to be able to join this computer to the domain? My name is administrator. That's my username on the server. And then my password is the item. What's my password? The item 2024 hash. All right, so my password is the item 2024. And I say, okay. All right, awesome. Welcome to cyber.local. So we have successfully joined the computer to domain. Beautiful job. This is for this new effect, new configuration to take effect, you must restart your computer. Right now, you are restarting your computer as a standalone client one. But by the time it restarts, it becomes a terminal through which you are now able to connect to the domain, not just an isolated client one. All right, so restart the computer, and that is it. That is how to join computer to domain. And now that we have joined this computer to domain and put it in a public place like the reception, whoever comes in can now sign in, can log in to this computer and connect to the entire domain, the services available on our entire corporate network from this system. However, depending on the access that I give to each member of the employee team, each person will have a different level of access to the different resources in our organization. The fact that everybody can log in from here does not necessarily mean that everyone has access to exactly the same resources. Some will be able to access servers, some will be able to access database, some will be able to, some will be logged out automatically after 4 hours of work, and so on and so forth. We call that different level of access. And as the system to security administrator, I'm in charge of assigning those access levels. My system is hanging. Okay, I'll have to talk to them. And then restart. All right, guys. So once that system comes up, we will now be able to start to practice. We'll be able to create an account for a new user and then go to that system and test whether the account is working exactly as we give the authorization. And that is where the practice starts. Everything else was just preparing the ground for practice. And like I said, that only afforded us the opportunity to learn what network engineers do at that level. All right. Did I start it? Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. So what you want to do now is follow the note and ensure that you are able to right-click properties after the current machine has restarted, which is what we are doing now, log in and blah, blah, blah. So we enter the domain name. In this previous class, we used cyberclass1.local, but in this your class, I'm using cyber.local. So it doesn't matter. You can use your own name, whatever it is. Just remember that. Okay, so so when you go to the physical office and you see some room labeled server room out of bound, do not enter something. It is because of this domain controller. That is where it is. The domain controller is the main server. There may be other servers like your database server, but the main one is the domain controller, and that is what is most important. So you normally will have, please, no entrance to non-staff or no employee. All right, that no entrance place is your own office as a network administrator, unless you are working remotely to connect to that server remotely and work. If you are there, that is your own office. All right. Any questions? All right. So this system is on now. So for once, we are going to log in for the first time. We'll go back to input, keyboard. No. What did I pick? I'm not sure what I picked. Okay. So this time we're not going to log in as admin to the local system. I'm going to say other user. Watch it. Rather than say admin, you are going to see something different. So I say other user, and I say sign in to the domain. So I take cyber here. Sign into cyber. All right. So because it's already showing cyber there, it's already taken. I'm going to say, what was the Kenneth's username? Was it Kenneth A or just Kenneth? I think it was Kenneth. And the password was the item 2024. Yes, right? Oh, 2024. Okay, let's try. And then we'll log in. Your account has been disabled. Please see why. Okay. Let's go and find out why it was disabled. So good troubleshooting for us. So let's go to server. So can I call the administrator and say, I tried to log in, but it says my account is disabled. And then we are still on the phone and I'm going to say, okay, hold on 1 minute. Let me check your account for you. And then I'll just say, Active Directory users and computers. And I'll say, that's loading. And then I go to my domain. And then I go to users. And then I go to kernel. What do I see here? I see account. Oh, I see account. So the username is kernel, and then what's the password? Let's pretend he forgot his password. So let's renew the password because the username is correct. So I come back to kernel and I right click. I see Oh, it was actually, okay, so it was disabled, right? So let me come back here and say enable account. Enable account. Can I just call me to say his account is disabled? I don't remember when I disabled it, but enable it. So I say, okay. I say, can I try one more time? So can I on floor 23 and it goes back to his system. And then so this is, can I try one more time from his office? Can I? And then it says password, the iTab 2024 hash. Okay, and then we'll say login. All right. So it looks like it was actually disabled, but now we have enabled it. It's working now. All right. So what do you do as a network administrator for this small organization where you worked for 6 months? When users, members of my organization forget or have a password related issue, they call me and I resolve it for them. You just practice it so you can play me. How do you resolve? Sometimes it's just a matter of enabling. Sometimes I reset the password entirely. And so on and so. So this is can I log into the system for the first. All right. So you just saw that it's possible to disable system. All right. So we're not going to go into, let's go into in-depth practice of how to. There are many possible things we can do relating to security on the server, always on the server. The only reason we have clients is to test the work that we do. We'll continue to practice on the server. So we'll come back to server in the future. We're going to learn about all of these users. We're going to come to properties. We're going to learn how to use all of these. And then we're going to do many more around tools and so on and so forth. All right. But for now, let's just okay. Yes, somebody raising their hand.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the class today. I want to ask if on the network we realize that somebody is using a lot of the bandwidth to watch YouTube videos that is not in the company's policy.
Yeah.
How do you restrict that person from doing that?
We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Okay.
We'll do it. Yeah. I'll show you. All right. But for now, so I will still have 5 minutes. Let Kene log out so that we can quickly create one more account for somebody else and then let the person log in. So to log Kene out, we are going to say input, control, delete, sign out, whoever is signed in right now. And then let us pretend that we have we do not have an account for, so we'll go to other user other than Kene. So it gives you the opportunity to enter a new. Let's say we have for Tom. We do not have an account for Tom. So Tom is just coming in as somebody we do not know and attempting to use our network. All right, because he's not a registered account holder on the domain controller, he will not be allowed in. So let's try. Let's put in the anyway, there cannot be correct password because the account doesn't even exist. So whatever password you put in, if we now say sign in, it's going to say either the user does not exist or your password is not correct. Because if it tells you exactly what the problem is, you will say, okay, So it just confuses you by telling one of these. All right. What if we now say Tommy, and then we'll enter the akin 2024 hash, and then we'll say okay. It says you are not allowed. Okay. Let's quickly go and create an account so that, and then you call the administrator. My name is Tommy. I resumed yesterday. I was told that once I log in this morning, come in this morning, I can log in, I'll be able to do my work. And then I'm just going to say, you know what, just give me 2 minutes and I'm going to make that possible for you. So I come here to active users and computer. And I go there and I go to users. And then if I want, I can right click there and say new user. This user's name will be Tommy. And then it will log in as Tommy. Oh, let's do single. Anyone. That will be Tom. And then their logon name will be Tom. And then they should be able to log in with the initial username, daily 2024 hash, daily 2024 hash. And the user must change password at next logon, or user cannot change password. Account is disabled. Maybe this was all clicked for kernel unknowing. Okay, but we just ensure. All right. Okay. So we are dropping the phone. I will say, okay, now you can log in, Tom. And then Tom is back in Tom's office on floor 1 of the building. He comes in here and say, Tom, and then it says daily 2024 hash. And then we say login. User's password must be changed at first login. So you didn't see the opportunity to, because we said user must change password. So what is your new password now? So that only me knows this password, no other person knows it. And I cannot change it to something only me knows. So that's the whole essence of user must change password at next logon. So that you change the password to something only him knows. So that when an atrocity is committed, a cybercrime is committed with this username and password, he will not hold the administrator responsible as saying, well, he could have logged in on my behalf because he knows my password. All right, so he has changed it. Now the password has been changed to new password. So he's not allowed to log in. All right. So if he does not have an account, if it's not registered on the domain controller, he cannot do any of this. Now, do you get my point? The person was always referring to client, client, client. It's not really about the client. Everything is done on the domain controller. The client is. So just mention the server and you are good. Don't need to mention client. All right. That's all the practice we can take in one day. We come back the next day and we're able to continue to practice how to secure this network environment that we just successfully created. Secure the users, secure sites, secure policies, secure auditing, how to enter, protect username and password, create groups, create organizational unit, how to manage the entire domain policy, and so on and so forth. And then on your own, you now begin to practice all of these things that will be in your resume. And then once you are done with all of that and you're happy with that, then we'll move to chapter 2, where we talk about risk, governance, risk, and compliance. And then progressively, then within 1 month, we would have covered the entire course. Yes, that is it. Yes.
Yeah. So if Tom changes the password,
Yeah.
the administrator will also have a copy of the new password, right?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, only Tom knows.
Okay.
Yeah. It's That's what we call non-repudiation in IT. It's dangerous for anyone else to know Tom's password. In fact, as the security person, you must do everything possible to prevent anyone, including the administrator, from knowing any other person's password. So to answer your question, no, Tom does not. Only Tom knows, no other person. In fact, the password is saved in hash format in such a way that even if you copy the encrypted password and go and paste somewhere, you still will not be able to decode the actual password. It's hashed. So it's a very important aspect of cybersecurity that nobody must know the password, and it should be very difficult, if possible, make it impossible that anybody is able to take somebody's password and go and decrypt it and get the actual. It's one of the reasons, it's a major reason you're a cybersecurity analyst. You must prevent that from happening. All right, good question. Yes, any other question? All right, guys, hope that was clear. So this is the end of today's class. So let us continue on. Yeah, Brooke, you're welcome. So let's continue on. What's the time? Tuesday, 12. Yes. All right. Take it easy and bye, everybody.
Oh, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so quick one. So I'm just having problems setting up my server since I had to download, I don't know, maybe it's because I had to download the old version of the VirtualBox.
Okay.
Yeah, so I already sent a screenshot on the group page so that
Yeah, let's
that's
just monitor it as soon as myself and your colleagues, because some of your colleagues know these things. All of us will be there to support one another. As soon as we have the chance, we'll support you and follow each other. Yeah. And for the rest of you who would be willing to support and claim it as part of your experience, that you support people in your organization to resolve issues. So whatever you support us to do here, write it down as your experience that you share at interview. These some of the job titles we could be looking at. Yeah, we'll continue on. I did just the second. How many classes have you done that you are looking for job title? Let's continue. But of course, network administrator. At this level, you can say Windows. Network may be a bit broad. So let's be specific. Windows Server Administrator. When we say network, I could think that you are talking about Linux, and you are talking about all of the protocols here, that we are not necessarily going to cover. So let's just say, at this level, you are half ready to be called Windows Server Administrator. By the time we complete the next two classes, they should be fully ready for that title. All right, thank you.